lovelies, and welcome to another video on this Gingerboof ASMR channel. Today I thought we'd do something a little different, and what you see before you here is, well, it's a Hogwarts journal looking book, but what it actually is a sketchbook. I am a bit of a hobby doodler. I like to draw and paint and digital art in my spare time, and it's not something I do professionally. As I said, it's just something I do for fun, and I thought maybe it would be nice, maybe you'd be interested maybe in looking at some of my sketches, and in particular looking at some of my sketches from something called Inktober last year. And if you don't know what Inktober is, basically it is a sort of voluntary challenge that artists can undertake in the month of October, and it's an ink challenge. So you have to draw an ink drawing every day throughout October. So that's 31 drawings in total, which for a lot of people is nothing. Those who draw every day, I imagine, find it very simple, but not me. I've done it 2 years now, and the first year I failed. I only did half. I was very disappointed in myself. So this year I was determined to do all 31 days, and I did. I may have cheated slightly. I'm not sure if there are any official rules around Inktober, but I did have 2 or 3 drawings already done, usually, just in case I couldn't find the time to draw, or I just didn't feel like it. So yeah, I don't know if that counts as cheating, but I'm okay with it. So yes, so it's in this one rather wonderful looking Hogwarts sketchbook. I love this sketchbook. It's now completely full. The first sketchbook actually ever managed to fill, so I'm a little bit proud of myself. And yeah, so let's have a peek inside, shall we? I've got a little tab here which will hopefully take us right to the right page. Yay! So, sorry, just readjusting my headphones. Okay, so here we are. This is what I drew for the 1st of October, and as Inktober takes place in Halloween month, I thought we'd better start with something Halloweenish. So I went with a witch, but not just any witch. Oh no. This is actually one based off of a polymer clay sculpture I completed a few years ago. She is sadly no longer with us. She took a little bit of a swan dive off of my shelf and smashed into several thousand pieces. But her memory lives on. I do have a video on her on my main channel, if anyone is interested. But yes, I was rather fond of her. But I do really like this drawing, and for the first sort of few drawings I did for Inktober, I stuck predominantly to biro, because at the time it's what I was most comfortable with. And as you can see, my technique, if you can call it that, is, well, I'd say scribbly, quite messy, a bit chaotic, but it took me a while to figure out that's just the way I draw, and I'll never be technical or precise and detailed and neat. And I've actually kind of come to accept it, and it's good. It's helped me progress. I don't think I ever actually gave her a name, poor lady. Now, for the 2nd of October, we do actually have to go back a page. So let's flip this. As you can see, I only ever draw on the right hand side because I usually sketch in pencil. I don't like sketching on the facing page because they tend to rub together and they'll smudge and fade, and that is not a good thing. So for the 2nd of October this this, as I said, is actually an older, or was an older drawing that I decided to finish for Inktober, and she's a sort of deep sea mermaid. I don't know if you can see, but up here she's got sort of anglerfish-like antenna, and her hair is actually fins, sort of a membrane-like fin, as opposed to sort of strands of hair, and her tail is not your sort of archetypal mermaid tail, it's more cuttlefish-like. And my mermaids always have these kind of little dorsal fin-like appendages. I don't know what else to call them. That's just something I like to do for my mermaids. And yeah, she was a bit of fun. I haven't actually drawn this sort of view before, or at least for a long time, this kind of back view, so it was a fun little challenge. And I do actually really love how she came out. I am planning on turning a lot of these ladies into, well, and gentlemen, there are a few dudes, into full colour illustrations at some point, but it's a bit of more of a slow process. I'm better at sketching in black and white than I am at colouring in full colour. So let's flip ahead, shall we, to the 3rd of October. I will be honest, this is the second time I've filmed this bit of this video because I forgot to hit record on my microphone. I'm such a noob. So, for the 3rd of October, I drew another lady, another fantasy lady. It's kind of my thing, and she is a very unicorn lady. As you can see, she's got a unicorn horn and some teeny tiny little wings, and she's got little fluffy legs and a beautiful, rather large and heavy looking tail. I've got some beads in there as well, and she's almost sort of a tribal feel with her outfit and little feathers in her hair. But it was this drawing, I think, when I first sort of started to notice that all of a sudden, and I can't honestly explain it any better than this, but things like anatomy just started to make sense to me. Honestly, as I said, I don't understand how it happened, but I draw something and it would just make sense that this particular body part would go here and that would go there. And you know, the great thing about doing Inktober is if you do it sort of one year after another, you can really see your progress and improvement, and I definitely saw some improvement on this year as opposed to the year before. So it was this drawing where I suddenly thought, oh, okay. And then I think from that moment I decided that I'd start to experiment a bit more with more sort of dynamic poses. So it was a fun month. It really was for drawing. It was, if you are a fan of drawing and arting and you've not taken part in Inktober, I definitely recommend it. So moving on to the 4th of October now. Oh dear, yes. I had a little bit of an experiment with colour. As with the previous illustration, I'd actually gone on to fine liners, and I've also got some in sort of other colours as opposed to black, and I just thought, hey, let's have a go at colouring. Well, as you can see, that didn't go so well, and I wrote myself a little note here that says, this is why we don't use colour, because we suck at it. But again, yeah, this one was a real experiment with just trying to get a much more dynamic pose, shoulders up, body twisted, sort of legs sort of foreshortened here, and it was a bit of a mixed bag as to whether it actually worked or not. And you also notice that I am a big fan of big, sort of long, floaty hair. Oh, I love hair. Painting it, drawing it, it's like my favourite thing. Sculpting it even. I adore it. I think we'll move on though from this one because it's starting to hurt my eyes. So for the 5th, we have a sort of priestess, shamaness style shading. So it's quite a bold piece, I'd say, but yeah, I am on the whole pretty pleased. Something else you might notice is that I tend to not draw hands, which is a very bad habit. I hate drawing hands. They're evil, full of fingers. So yeah, one thing I need to work on this year, 2016, is drawing hands, among other things. Oh look, another lady. So this was for the 6th of October, and let's ignore that hand, shall we? This is what happens when I try to draw them. So yeah, I started this one, I got to about here, and it needed to end in some form of tail. Like, I tried drawing her with legs and it didn't feel right, but I thought I'd drawn a mermaid like only a few days previously, so I decided to go down a different route. So she's kind of a snake lady. I don't know if they've got an actual name. I'm sure I've heard somewhere that they do actually have a name, but there's Naga or something. Probably way off the mark. I also tried a more heavy effect with the hair to give the impression of sort of thickness and weight, because usually my hair kind of floats off all over the place. But again, I was relatively happy with the anatomy on this one. And the nice thing about drawing fantasy is that you can get away with a slightly bizarre anatomy, because you can just blame it on the fact that it's fantasy. Oh, I love it. So, moving on to the 7th. So randomly for this one I went back to Biro and decided that I just actually preferred sort of fine liners. The reason why I generally don't use ink in my drawings is because I tend to butcher the sketch, because obviously once you lay it down in ink, that's it, it's erasable, and I completely butchered her face. Unfortunately, this isn't the only time I do it. But you know, it's all a learning curve. But I did love the angle of this one's body and the way it looks like the leg is bent upwards. I do struggle with legs and sort of the foreshortening, so that one looks a bit strange, but this bit here looks okay. She was actually inspired by an amazing creature called the Atlas moth, and they live, I'm not sure if they only live in this place, but they live on an island sort of in southern Japan, and they are huge. They are about the size of a dinner plate, and they only live for a couple of days, which is tragic, but they are utterly stunning. So that's the shape of this wing here, and there's an Atlas moth there, and actually that's probably to scale. But yeah, so not one of my better ones. And here we have the 8th. Yay! I do love a woman in armour. Now this one, actually, the sort of the head design came from one of my creations that I sell on my Etsy store. If you haven't seen, I sell pendants which are sort of heads with masks and hair. I call them fey portrait pendants, and this is, say, inspired by one called the Sunlight Seraph. And what I'm probably most proud of in this one is her hair. It's just, I don't think I can ever replicate that sort of shape hair ever again. It just went so well. Unfortunately, I gave her rather droopy breasts, but we won't focus on that. And you've got to love drawing a bit of epic armour, it's always fun. And I did draw her a nice stick, but then completely forgot to ink it. But yeah, she is going to be one of the ones that I decided to colour at some point. But I do love her drawing a sort of strong warrior-like female character. I'm a huge fan of strong women, not just, brute strength, but just an inner strength as well. So hopefully, she radiates that. Okay, I'm really waffling now. Moving on to the 9th of October. my first sort of real sort of close-up portrait in a long, long time. I didn't use a reference because I'm an idiot and I never use references, but I think she turned out, well, she looks human, so that's always a bonus. Again, this one's actually based on another one of my fake portrait pendants, and I think this one is also actually still available. I don't think I've sold this one yet. I can't actually remember her name though, it's Autumn something. And she's a fairy, shocking, and she's got sort of little horns here, and these are leaves, but because I was trying to keep the pencil shade and not drown it in too thick ink, it all kind of merges into one and just looks like her hair. But yeah, these are leaves and these are little horns, and this is feathers. It'll probably make more sense if I ever get around to colouring her. But what I loved about this sketchbook, because I don't know whether you can tell, but it blended so beautifully. I could get a really soft blend, which was wonderful. Oh look, it's a dude. So this is the 9th of October, and look at this. No hands. As much as I love drawing ladies in armour, I like drawing men in armour too. And this, I think, is kind of more of like a futuristic armour. I could see this in maybe like a Final Fantasy game, especially the helmet with the hair sticking at the top. But I have a bad habit of I never really plan what I'm going to be drawing. So I'll start in a strange place on the page and then end up, running out of space down the bottom. That's what happens when you make it up as you go along, really. And that's kind of how I do everything. I never really have a plan, because if you have a plan, they never usually end up how you want them to. So it's how I avoid disappointment. I'm ever the pessimist. Oh, just seeing who's next. I haven't actually looked through these in a while, so this is quite fun for me. Oh, it's Dorian. Oh, Dorian. So for the 11th of October, I drew one of my all-time favourite male characters, and he's from the game Dragon Age Origins. No, he's not. I tell a lie. Dragon Age Inquisition, which is the latest Dragon Age game, and he was the most flamboyantly, fabulously hilarious character ever, and a bit of a kind of milestone for BioWare, the creators of Dragon Age, because he and another character, female character Sarah, were the first characters who were gay. Usually you can play them either way, so that you'll get the choice, but they decided with the Dorian and Sarah that no, he is gay, and so is she, and that's, I think it's a step in the right direction, definitely. And he was wonderful. I was slightly devastated because my character was female, so I had to say bye-bye to a romance with Dorian, but he did become my bestest best friend, and we had lovely picture conversations together. I'm not kidding, when I was playing that game he made me laugh so many times with his wonderful, witty, sarcastic outbursts. Just glorious. So I had to draw my boy Dorian, and look at him, look at his, I should have known really, shouldn't I, because his hair is far too perfect, and I gave him a rather wonderfully long eyelash. Well, he is fabulous. So yay, Dorian. Who have we got for the 12th? Oh, I'm afraid yet again this is very loosely based on one of my fey portrait pendants. She was called the Twilight Dragoness, and I believe her hair was white, and she had a black mask. So, 13th. Oh, and we have another Dragon Age Inquisition sketch. This is actually a sort of version of my character. If you've never played Dragon Age before, like most RPGs, you create your own character, and I am one of those people who spends hours on picking the shape of their nose, the colour of their hair, the size of the jaw, all kinds of things. And unfortunately, in Dragon Age Inquisition, the hair presets were terrible. So in my head, actually, her hair was a lot longer. In the actual game, her hair is about shoulder length. It is side shaved and they are dreadlocks, but it's a lot shorter. So I always imagine her with longer hair. But this is, my character from Dragon Age Inquisition. She is a human rogue, and as I do in everything like this, she's called Faith. That's like my go-to name. But I actually used a reference for her armour, because I sort of, wanted it to actually look like my character. And again, I went with that thick, heavy style of inking on this one, and I do think I prefer that. It kind of seems to work with my messy style, although things do tend to get a bit lost. Like there is actually an arm in here, and obviously that leg is kind of tilted backwards because she's supposed to be sort of mid-stroll. But again, instead of starting her up here, I start her too low on the page and I cut her legs off. I never learn. And for the 14th, we have my favourite lady. It's Captain Marvel. Oh my goodness, I can't tell you how much I adore Captain Marvel. She's my favourite Marvel character, one of my absolute favourite female characters. I'm a bit strange because I get really obsessed with female characters and not that bothered about the male ones. I get obsessed, not kidding. But because I'm a big fan of drawing hair, I tend to draw Captain Marvel slightly differently from how she's supposed to be, especially now. In the updated version, she's actually got a complete crew cut, which is devastating because one of the first things that caught my eye about Captain Marvel was when she wears her helmet. She has this fabulous mohawk, and obviously with the crew cut, less mohawk. So now whenever I draw her, I give her this rather mane-like mohawk, and it's blonde and it's beautiful, and she's just such a wonderful character. One of those female characters that isn't just strong, she's so much more than that. She's just such a likeable, funny, nice, heroic, just a fantastic role model. I love her so much. If you don't know much about her, definitely check her out. Her name is Carol Danvers, but her superhero name is Captain Marvel. She was Ms. Marvel, but she got an upgrade because she's awesome. Yes, I have to draw Captain Marvel once every few months, otherwise I get withdrawal symptoms. So moving on. 15th. So here are the first original characters of this Inktober. I hadn't actually drawn these guys in a while. So these are from the book that I've been writing. Actually books, because it's turned into a quartet. Books that I've been writing for about 10 years now, I think. I've done the first draft, I think, of 2 books, and I'm a quarter of a way through book 3, but I haven't touched it in months, so I'm kind of dreading going back to it, putting it off. But these are the main characters. So this is Faith. She's just an ordinary human girl, and as things happen in fantasy books, she just stumbles upon adventure quite by accident, and of course it completely changes her life. And this chap is Sora, who is sort of Japanese descent, although he's not Japanese anymore. Can't say more than that without giving anything away, like I'm ever going to publish them. But he is an Okami, so he is sort of a shapeshifter, and he can turn into a wolf, which is cool because people who can turn into wolves are cool. I did have to stop myself from giving him little wolf ears, but I might innocent. Just like me. Oh, I'm so sorry, I just sniffed. I'll have to just edit that out. I did like how Faith came out on this one. Something else I've been practicing was facial expressions, because my characters usually look a little blank, shall we say. So it looks like we're halfway through then, so here we are, number 16, so 16th of October. Shockingly, this is the same character that I just showed you. This is Faith, but yeah, my continuity isn't brilliant. And again, got bored of the hand. What I like most about this drawing is her jeans. I finally started to figure out how fabric works, because again, why would I bother, researching and using references? That's far too easy. I like to make things difficult for myself. So yeah, that's pretty much anything I like about this drawing, but yeah. Let's move on. And look, it's Sora again. Yeah, legs came out okay. Other than that, it's pretty, not much to say about it really. Yeah, I do like Sora though. I have a bit of a soft spot for Sora. Oh, look at his little face. Okay, shall we move on then to the 18th of October? My goodness. And once again, this is a drawing based off of one of my favourite portrait pendants. I did a couple inspired by Dia de los Muertos, and instead of having a half mask, instead their faces were white, and I detailed them in clay. And funny story actually about this particular one, because I actually still have her. I put her up for sale, and a friend of mine bought it, which I was kind of happy about, but kind of not, because I'd said that if I hadn't sold her in like a couple of weeks, I would be keeping her for myself, because I just loved how she came out. And so yeah, they bought it. So I thought, well, at least it's close by and I can ask to see it sometimes. And then I kind of just didn't think anything more of it, because it made me sad. And then for Christmas, I received a box that looked rather similar, and in that box was my little Dia de los Muertos lady. So I actually got her back for Christmas, so I was ecstatic. And she was more beautiful than I remembered. I was so happy. So yeah, this was a drawing I did inspired by her. So here we have a Japanese inspired drawing. This is a kitsune, which is a sort of a fox spirit from Japanese folklore. And I'll be honest, by this point I think I was starting to run out of ideas a bit of what to draw. I don't find drawing every day sort of easy, so it was a bit of a struggle. But in the end, I actually quite liked how she came out. And although fox spirits are generally quite mischievous, quite cheerful creatures, but she looks a bit worried. Maybe she's got caught. Who knows? And the 20th of October, we have one of my favourite characters as well, one of my favourite dudes. It's Peter Quill, otherwise known as Star-Lord from Guardians of the Galaxy. I didn't try and draw Chris Pratt, because I've done that before and it's gone hideously wrong, and I love Chris Pratt too much to do that to him again. To completely butcher him, so I did my own little kind of face, but I did draw his uniform slash outfit from sort of the end of the movie. I don't know if you can see on the camera, but there is a rough outline of a longer coat, because I do enjoy the swishy coat in the first part of that movie. And I don't know if I've mentioned it yet on this channel, but I am obsessed with Guardians of the Galaxy, and a little bit obsessed with Chris Pratt, but we won't go there. But yeah, on from Faith to the 22nd, and here she is again. I know you wouldn't think it's her, would you? But that's because she's all glammed up in this one. This image actually, because I was struggling a bit with thinking of what to draw, I did ask my lovely followers on Instagram for something to draw some inspiration, and someone said to draw my OCs. So we have Faith and Sora, and someone else, I'm afraid I can't remember who, said maybe doing a ball scene, which is actually quite funny because there is a masquerade scene, or there will be when I write it in my book. So we have Faith here, who is dressed up as a fairy, and this is Sora, who is dressed as a demon with random rooster tail. It made sense to me at the time. He's got like dragon skin sort of leggings on, and this sort of articulated dragon spine, which is pretty cool, if I do say so myself. I apologise if I sound quite arrogant, but unfortunately we artists do tend to be a little obsessed with ourselves, or at least our drawings anyway. Oh, excuse me. But yeah, I had an awful lot of practice with drawing sort of two bodies interacting, as it were. So it's always fun to experiment, and I think I was actually planning on trying to record the process of this, but I just couldn't get a good angle. So maybe you should let me know as well if you'd be interested in seeing a process of me drawing, sort of real time as opposed to sped up. So let me know down below if that's something you want to see. There might be some sort of pencil sketchy noises, which might be quite fun. So we're getting close to the end now. So for the 23rd of October I went for something completely different, and we went for something a bit more kind of high fashion, and I seem to always fall back on this kind of tribal style. I honestly don't know why, but I think I work better with geometric shapes than sort of free-flowing, sort of loose ones. But yeah, I did kind of love how this came out. That's supposed to be a hat, by the way. She's got big sort of earrings, and she's got this big sort of wrap type scarf, and a high-waisted skirt. Again, no reference used. I was trying to kind of imagine sort of model poses and things. I have no idea whether it worked. And look, a gammy hand. One day I will draw a hand well, and I will literally die of shock. Here's a page that's a bit different. Oh no, what's this? I broke my cardinal rule and I drew something on this side. That's Sora, but we'll ignore him. So yes, oh no, look, I forgot I'd drawn this here. So here we go. I did actually attempt to draw Chris Pratt in this Inktober. And you know what, this is actually quite funny because I spent about 3 hours using a reference on my computer, and I just couldn't get it right. It ended up looking more like Paul Walker than Chris Pratt. So it was about 3 o'clock in the morning by the time I finished, so I'm just going to stroke his face. And I just gave up, and I decided in the morning I was just going to rub it out and just try and draw something else here. Well, next morning I did rub it out, and I started drawing something else, and it ended up being this, and I drew it in about 10 minutes without a reference. And it just goes to show that if you do something over and over again, repetitively, eventually your brain will figure it out. So what I couldn't do in 3 hours with a reference, I managed to do in 10 minutes without. So my brain is just all kinds of messed up. I mean, I'm not saying it looks identical, but I hope that it might look a little bit like him. But yeah, this page is a bit of a different one. It's the only page like this in sort of this Inktober section, where I've got multiples and non-finished sort of little doodles. But because I'd drawn so many women, I decided to have a go at drawing some more men and challenging myself to different sort of expressions and different shaped faces. And different angles, and they're all bald because that's one thing that again I needed to work on, was trying to map out the shape of the head, because I never used to be able to draw hair. And sorry, I was just checking to make sure this microphone was still recording. Yeah, I could never draw hair because I could never figure out the shape of the skull, so I'd always end up drawing the hair too high or too low. So it's much easier to draw hair when you know where it's supposed to go, and I think that's what I was doing with this one. I drew the shape of his skull and drew the hair on top. So yeah, that's a little Sora. So cute. Okay, home stretch indeed. So here is the 25th, and it's just a random fairy warrior. Oh, page is trying to turn of its own accord. Yeah, back to big hair. She's kind of manly looking, but you know, why not? I did have a go at trying to give a bit of perspective on her staff, so it kind of looks like it's nearer to the viewer. And I drew some feet, which is shocking because I don't do feet. Yeah, I was kind of surprised that I actually managed to draw feet. Shocking, and the hair is obviously incredibly unrealistic, but where's the fun in drawing realistic hair when you can draw weird, floaty, ribbony hair? I don't know. I think my brain's gone. Black Widow, another one of my favourite ladies, definitely favourite Marvel ladies. So this is the 26th of October at this point, and the first drawing I've done with an actual proper background. It's supposed to be her sort of little symbol that she wears on her belt, which is actually, here's a fun fact for you, the symbol doesn't look anything like this. The actual symbol is actually taken from what is on the abdomen of the actual Black Widow spider. There you go. But yeah, love Black Widow. I don't tend to draw short hair because, you know, it's short and you can't do much with it, but well, you know, Black Widow does have short hair nowadays, so it had to be done, and I don't know, I had a bit of fun with that. Unfortunately, her uniform is generally all black, but I was a bit worried about losing some of the details if I did do it all black, so I went for a more stylised look, and kind of works. And yes, this is blood, because obviously she has a lot of blood on her hands. I do love Black Widow. One of the most interesting characters in the Marvel and sort of the Avengers team, and the one I think that you know the least about. It's tragic, it really is. And you know, God love Scarlett Johansson. Again, she's one of my favourite real life ladies. I would love to be her bestest best friend. If anyone knows Scarlett Johansson, give me a number, because honestly. Anyway, I've turned the page, we should move on. My random obsessions. So for the 27th, we go back to my OCs. Now this one's a bit more interesting than the other two that you've seen so far, as this is one of my elemental characters. I have 4, and they each represent one of the 4 elements. And this one is water, and her name is Rillen, and it's spelt with a W. She is, as you can hopefully tell, inspired mostly quiet, relatively cheerful, but in a very sort of understated, very quiet way. But don't get her angry, because my goodness, as you all know, the destructive power of water. So, following that theme, we have another character from my book. She's not one of the elements. This is Pepper, and she is my awesome steampunk style mechanic. And she recently had a haircut, because originally when I drew her she had long kind of dreadlocked hair that she sort of knotted up in a ball on top of her head. But I actually changed her hair because when I worked in a bookshop, a customer came in and I fell in love with her hair. It was just incredible. She had sort of tiny cornrows that went from sort of the base of her sort of neck up to sort of the crown of her head, and then erupted into these sort of short, tight pin curls, and it was glorious. So yeah, Pepper now has adopted that hairstyle, although it's actually a little longer here. And yeah, she's fabulous. I do love Pepper. She's a human, but because she's been living in fairy for so long, she has actually kind of adopted some sort of fairy traits. So at night, her skin actually kind of glows with little sort of traceries, like vein-like things. It's a little sneak peek for you. But yeah, my story is a bit of a mixture of everything, to be honest. There's steampunk, there's fairies, there's rebellion, there's evil queens. My god, it's a madhouse, I swear. A bit like my brain. Okay, so moving on to the 29th. This is another OC, but this is, original character. This is another one of my elemental characters. This is Earth, and her name is environement. And as you can see, she's got a pair of rather fabulous antlers and a glorious mane of soft brown wavy hair. And for Earth, I have in mind a sort of warm, curvaceous, sweet, kind, loving kind of character. I kind of have a sort of a Mediterranean look for her, so the beautiful olive skin, warm brown eyes, like new deer eyes, and sort of the very essence of Mother Nature herself. So she's very nurturing, but again she can get angry, but not quite as violently as water. And her dress is made of leaves and vines, and I think a bit of wisteria, but I didn't draw it here. And for the 30th, oh my goodness, so we've only got another day after this. This is my air element character. She has a name, but I don't like it, so I will come up with a new one at some point. But she is a bit of a mixture between sort of a Valkyrie, sort of Viking warrior, and also sort of slightly Grecian. She's very stern, she's cold, she lives sort of high in the mountains, looking down upon the world below. So she's the complete opposite of Rillen and Enderena. She's fierce, and you do not want to mess with her because her element may be air, but she also has dominion over sort of the weather. So yes, things can get a little stormy when she gets angry. And of course she wouldn't be complete without a pair of wings, big old eagle wings. But yeah, she's probably the most mean of the four elements. The main character she's a fairy. Shocking, I know, but my shop is called Blue Fae, so, and her name is Blue, because her hair is blue, usually, when she's not in black and white. But in this little drawing, I decided to dress her up as Kiki from Kiki's Delivery Service. So she's got a little radio, and she's got her little Gigi, being a little bit windswept. And yeah, and she's got Kiki's lovely big old bow in her hair. So I thought that was an appropriate way to end this Inktober for 2015. So I guess that means we've come to the end of the video. I thank you so